everybody who watches me. It's time once again to dive into the filmography of my all-time favorite filmmaker, Quentin Tarantino.
Chin chin. For our purposes, promptness is far behind thoroughness.
Booyah.
We've gone through the first phase of Tarantino's career where he did grounded crime films, and then the second phase where he did kick-ass, over-the-top exploitation movies. And now we enter the third and still ongoing phase of Tarantino's film career, the period phase. The phase where Tarantino decided that it was best to go back several decades, sometimes hundreds of years to tell his stories, and as of right now, seems to be working pretty fucking well.
What was the final take on domestic?
$72.1 million.
Fucking asses in fucking seats.
Today we look at Quentin Tarantino's first film to delve into history, Inglourious Basterds.
We're gonna be doing one thing and one thing only. Killing Nazis. Businesses are booming. Oh, yes, 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 yes.
An action-packed World War II epic that gives a alternative history to one of humanity's darkest times, still hanging on a little bit to the revenge theme of Kill Bill. Inglourious Basterds is the tale of two separate parties, completely unaware of each other's actions, setting out to kill Adolf Hitler, all the while both sides are tied to a very smart and very dangerous SS officer named Hans Landa.
You've had a nice long run. Alas, you're now in the hands of the SS.
Inglourious Basterds, when you come down to it, is possibly one of Tarantino's all-time greatest contributions to cinema, but in a weird way, it's also become one of his more underrated films. When people think of Tarantino's period films, the one they often jump to is Django Unchained, which is a great film. But when you really look at it, it's overshadowed Inglourious Basterds a bit. And I will admit, while I do think it's an excellent film, it is not in my top 5 personal favorite films by Tarantino, but that's just my personal taste, and even then, I still acknowledge it is one of his best pieces of work, and I can see why Tarantino himself feels a lot of pride in this film.
Through our cruelty, they will know who we are. The German will fear us.
Tarantino began working on the script for Inglourious Basterds as far back as 1998 and spent nearly a full decade working on it. He wrote many drafts and called the script his masterpiece, feeling it had some of the best writing he'd ever done, but he struggled to come up with a decent ending. After directing the Kill Bill movies and Death Proof for the Grindhouse double feature with Robert Rodriguez, Tarantino felt he was finally ready to make Inglourious Basterds.
Let's go to work.
As with many of his films, Tarantino took a lot of inspiration from multiple films he had seen over the course of his life, a big one apparently being the 1942 World War II film Hitler, Dead or Alive, starring Ward Bond. A movie whose plot you can see in certain areas, Inglourious Basterds followed pretty closely. If you want to know how close, I recommend checking out the film, and if that seems too much, check out the Cinema Snobs review.
I think it's pretty cool.
The film's title was inspired by Enzo G. Castellari's spaghetti war film, The Inglourious Basterds from 1978. A film starring Bo Sivenson and Fred Williamson. And for some VHS releases, the cover was reworked to look like it was a blaxploitation film with Fred Williamson as the main star, and the title was changed to G.I. Pro.
A grenade blew up right beside me. That's why I'm so pretty.
When asked about the misspelling of the title, Tarantino said, "I'm never going to explain that." And that's good enough for me.
Muchas gracias.
Teaming up once again with his longtime producing collaborator, Lawrence Bender. This actually being the last film of late where Lawrence Bender was Quentin's main producer. Tarantino brought Inglourious Basterds to the big screen in 2009 and really took audiences by surprise.
Jolly good, son.
Just like the Kill Bill movies, Inglourious Basterds is presented in chapters. Chapter 1 is titled Once Upon a Time in Nazi-Occupied France, which was actually considered to be the title at one point. Don't worry, Quentin, you'll get your Once Upon a Time in about 10 years.
Here
1941, SS Colonel Hans Landa, played by Christoph Waltz, arrives at a French dairy farm. He meets with the father and owner of the farm, Pierre Lapidette, played by Denis Minochet, to interrogate Lapidette about the whereabouts of the last unaccounted Jewish family in the area, the Dreyfus family.
Je voudrais de vous informer que j'ai épuisé l'étendue de mon français. Cependant, je crois savoir que vous parlez en anglais tout à fait.
Certainement.
Well, I'm very familiar with you and your family. I have no way of knowing if you are familiar with who I am.
As Hans Landa interrogates, Pierre answers his questions, lights his pipe, showing off a nervous demeanor, but not giving too much away.
Somewhere in the last year, it would appear they've vanished. They've either made good their escape or someone is very successfully hiding them.
As they talk, the camera pans down, revealing the Dreyfus family are actually hiding right underneath them below the floorboards.
What have you heard about the Dreyfuses, Monsieur Lapadite?
Only rumors.
I love rumors. What rumors have you heard?
The tension and anxiety in this scene is amazing. Every subtle face movement, Landa's ordering and drinking of milk, and Lapidette lighting his pipe, just puts us on the edge of our seat.
We heard the Dreyfuses had made their way into Spain.
So the rumors you've heard have been of escape?
Oui.
Stay down. Keep quiet.
Quiet as a mouse. Sorry about that. I'll be off then.
And the film still finds time for a little comedy, such as when Landa asks if he can smoke his own pipe, which turns out to be practically a mini saxophone. It is so fucking huge, it's ridiculous.
Are you aware of the nickname the people of France have given me?
That they call you the Junta?
Precisely. I understand your trepidation in repeating it.
Christoph Waltz just dominates this whole scene. He's straightforward, intimidating, and every monologue he gives just puts you further on the edge, explaining his nickname of the Jew Hunter, a name he takes pride in, saying that while most Germans hunt Jews with the mindset of Germans, he says he can put himself into the mind of a Jew.
Because I'm aware what tremendous feats human beings are capable of once they abandon dignity.
He gives a very chilling monologue comparing Jews to rats to justify the hunting and hatred of them.
If a rat were to walk in here right now, would you greet it with a source of your delicious milk? You don't really know why you don't like them. All you know is you find them repulsive.
And as it's made clear, he will check the floorboards. Landa's facial change from polite and almost joking to downright murderous is unbelievable.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Yes.
With it clear that his family's only chance to survive is to give up the Dreyfus family, and an incredible piece of acting from Minochet breaks down and reveals the location of the family. You can tell he doesn't want to do it, but it's a situation where he either gives them up and his family has a chance to live, or he doesn't, and they all die. It's heartbreaking and truly a no-win situation.
Since I haven't heard any disturbance, I assume while they're listening they don't speak English.
Yes.
The switch from French to English and then back to French is very impressive, allows the audience to understand better what they're saying, and also could be that Landa, suspecting they were there, decided that it'd be better to speak in English to avoid letting on what they were doing. He has his officers come in and putting on a very convincing show that everything is all right, has them execute the Dreyfus family. The murder of this innocent family is absolutely horrifying, but mixed with the music is almost beautiful in a twisted way. The only member of the Dreyfus family not killed and to escape is Shoshana, the oldest daughter. She runs for her life through the farm field, doused in her family's blood. Good God, this is horrifying. Landa raises his gun to shoot, but I guess just for shits, he lets her go. I'll get you next time, Jew woman!
Shoshana!
Christoph Waltz is undeniably the dominating actor in this film. Think of him as Eli Roth to this film's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And even after completing the final draft of the script, Tarantino almost considered not making the film if he couldn't find the right actor to play Hans Landa, who he considers possibly the best character he's ever created. He originally wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to play the character, but decided it would be best to go with a native German speaker. Probably for the best, makes the acting a bit easier, and as much as I love Leonardo DiCaprio, I think it's best that Tarantino went with a older actor for this character, but he would still follow through with his dream of having DiCaprio play a villain in Django Unchained.
Gentlemen, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Chapter 2 begins with the same title as the film. This chapter serves as another piece of character introduction, introducing Lieutenant Aldo Raine, played by Brad Pitt, a Southern lieutenant leading a commando unit of Jewish Americans into Nazi-occupied France.
We're gonna be doing one thing, and one thing only, killing Nazis. Every sumbitch we find wearing a Nazi uniform, they're gonna die.
Aldo is nicknamed the Apache, as account of having a little Indian heritage, and his commando unit is nicknamed the Bastards.
Nice name.
Aldo gives a very rousing speech about how the Nazis are not to be negotiated with, not to be given any sympathy.
They're the foot soldiers of a Jew-hating, mass-murdering maniac, and they need to be destroyed.
And each man under his command owes him 100 Nazi scalps.
And all y'all will get me 100 Nazi scalps, taken from the heads of 100 dead Nazis, or you will die trying.
Right.
The Bastards' actions become very famous in Germany, even taking the attention of the big crowd himself, Adolf Hitler, played here by Martin Wuttke.
Nein, 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 nein! Soll ich von diesen Jugendschweinen noch...
Wünschen Sie noch den gefreiten Butz?
Wer oder was ist ein gefreiter Butz?
And even though the performance mostly gives a comedic vibe, Martin Wuttke, I'd say, does a pretty good job being Hitler.
Dass Sie aus Fleisch und Blut sind, bringen Sie sie mir!
Hitler personally interrogates a German soldier named Private Boots, who was the only survivor of an attack by the Bastards. We see in a flashback the Bastards rounding up the only survivors, while the others scalp the dead Nazis. And even though they're dead, it is still unsettling to watch.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
Fun fact, the very first dead Nazi we see getting scalped is Quentin Tarantino himself. Not his most explosive director's cameo, but still pretty fun to watch. While interrogating the highest-ranking survivor of the raid, Sergeant Werner, played by Richard Semmel, we're introduced to one of the few German-born members of the Bastards, Hugo Stiglitz, whose introduction is very out of nowhere in terms of style and tone, but Tarantino has shown he can do things very unconventional and make it work. Stiglitz, for whatever reasons, was a German officer who decided to kill his Gestapo superiors. And before he could be executed, the Bastards came to his rescue and recruited him to their little group.
The High Command decided to send him back to Berlin. Once the Bastards heard about him, he never got there.
That's Tarantino's main man, Samuel Jackson, doing the narration.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
After refusing to give up information that would help the Bastards, Aldo condemns Sergeant Werner to be killed by Donnie Donowitz, aka the Bear Jew. A member of the Bastards who kills Nazis by bashing their fucking heads in with a baseball bat. And who plays the Bear Jew? Tarantino's good friend and horror film director, Eli Roth.
Knocks it out of the park! What the fucking lands down straight? You!
Showing that while he may be a hit-or-miss filmmaker, he's actually not that bad of an actor who can be intimidating as hell when he wants to be.
Batter up! You're on deck! 2 hits! I hit you, you hit the ground!
In a pretty hard to believe, but also interesting behind-the-scenes story, Quentin Tarantino originally offered the role of Donnie the Bear Jew Donowitz to Adam fucking Sandler.
You're kidding me, right?
And don't get me wrong, Adam Sandler has shown and proven on many occasions that he can actually be a pretty decent dramatic actor. And while it's a little hard to imagine, I honestly would be interested to see if he could pull off a role as intense and angry as the role of the Bear Jew. Although I'm not sure he could pull off the bulk that this character needs. I mean, Eli Roth put on over 30 pounds of fucking muscle to play this character, and that's one thing I just can't see Adam Sandler pulling off.
Ask him if he wants to live. Tell him to point out on this map the German position.
After giving up the information they want, Aldo showing that he can be a little, albeit little fair, lets Private Boots live, even gives him a lie to tell his superiors so he won't get shot.
Hat man sie ebenso gebrandmarkt wie die anderen Überlebenden? Ja, mein Führer.
But he's still a soldier with the Nazis, so he decides, as punishment, to mark him.
That's fucking crazy, man.
After directing Hostel 1 and 2, I can say without a doubt, this is the most twisted thing Eli Roth has ever been a part of.
Actually, we're all tickled to hear you say that.
We begin Chapter 3, German Night in Paris. Taking place in June 1944, 3 years after the brutal murder of her family, we see Shosanna, played by Mélanie Laurent, now living under the alias Emmanuel Mimieux, running a cinema in Paris. While changing the letters on the theater marquee, she's greeted by a German soldier named Frederick Zoller, played by Daniel Brühl.
Je suis française. Nous respectons les réalisateurs dans notre pays.
Y compris les Allemands.
Y compris les Allemands, oui.
It's tense, and this pretty boy Nazi is completely oblivious to just how uninterested and cold Shosanna is. But their conversation is pretty cool, and even for a film taking place in the 1940s, Tarantino just works in his great movie buff dialogue. They discuss the films of Charlie Chaplin, Max Linder, Nazi propaganda filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl, and G.W. Pabst. Zoller continues to pester and try to get the attention of Shosanna, to which it's eventually revealed that he's a German war hero, and that he's the star of a movie about one of his own battles. Despite being clear as day she wouldn't get with him if he was the last man on Earth, Zoller arranges to have the premiere of his film, named Nation's Pride, moved to Shosanna's little theater. Shosanna is brought to a private lunch with Zoller and Joseph Goebbels himself. Actor Sylvester Groth gives a great love-to-hate-him performance as Joseph Goebbels.
Alles Nachkommen von Sklaven. Hier ist Amerika überhaupt möglich. Kanisches Olympiagold lässt sich mit Negerschweiß aufwiegen.
Just a reminder that the Nazis discriminated against blacks as well as Jews. Zoller introduces Goebbels and his French interpreter, played by Julie Dreyfus, Sophie Fatale from Kill Bill Volume 1. Shosanna gets an idea of how their relationship probably works.
Bonjour.
Well, that was random. Also introducing this scene is Gestapo Major Hellstrom, played by August Dial. And just when you think this meal couldn't get any more uncomfortable for this Jewish woman in hiding.
Ah, Landa, da sind Sie ja!
Emmanuel, voici le colonel SS Landa. Il sera chargé de la sécurité pour la première.
The appearance of this man responsible for the murder of her family, with the slow panning up shot, and the music, is just spine-tingling. As the others leave, Landa has a private conversation with Shosanna to get to know her, understand her, and figure out how her cinema works. And good fucking God, the tension and anxiety in this conversation is unbelievable. Every little facial movement, hand gesture, bite of food just makes the hair stick up on the back of your neck. Landa inquires about Marcel, played by Jackie Ido, the projectionist for Shoshana's theater, or as he elegantly puts it.
On m'a été signalé que vous employez un nègre.
Il s'appelle Marcel.
Il est valable?
C'est le meilleur.
As you might have guessed by the way Shoshana unconsciously praises and defends Marcel, he is her lover.
Connaissant le ministre du Reich comme je le connais, il ne voudrait pas que la réussite ou l'échec de son dépende de la prouesse d'un nègre.
You know, it's funny. We're so used to hearing Tarantino use the word nigger in his movies that on the rare occasion that he decides to use the lesser of two N-words, it honestly feels a little weird.
Talentueux sans doute comme votre nègre peut l'être, c'est vous qui actionnerez les projecteurs.
Shit, Negro, that's all you had to say.
There's some question from certain fans as to whether or not Landa suspects or knows who Shoshana is, and two things lead to this question. He orders a glass of milk for her, which many see as a possible deliberate callback on his part to the day he had her family killed. He also orders for the both of them strudel, which during World War II would have likely been made with pork lard, making it non-kosher. Unclear if he knows who she is, but the strudel part at least could have been a possible test to see if she was Jewish. And while we're on it for the moment, I just gotta say, everybody loves to yap about Tarantino's more than obvious foot fetish, but is anyone else gonna talk about his obvious love for food porn?
No, sir.
Lighting up cigarettes, Landa says he has a question he's been meaning to ask Shoshana. After a piss-yourself-worthy pause.
Mais maintenant, sur ma vie, impossible de m'en souvenir. Enfin, bon, ça ne devait pas être important.
His inability to remember whatever that question was is the definition of the phrase, buy a cunt hair.
What a narrow escape.
Shoshana breaks down as soon as he leaves, and considering what he did to her and her family, she did an Oscar-worthy job of keeping it together. With Nation's Pride set to premiere at her cinema, Shoshana conspires with Marcel to take advantage of this opportunity, all the highest-ranking Nazis showing up to their cinema, to take them all out. How? By setting fire to the cinema with nitrate film reels. And to anyone confused about why that's so important, the film takes a few minutes to explain.
Because nitrate film burns 3 times faster than paper. Shoshana has a collection of over 350 nitrate film prints.
Nice little mini documentary featuring Saboteur by Alfred Hitchcock and the return of Samuel L. Jackson's narration.
Where is Samuel Jackson in Inglourious Basterds? Tarantino voiceover heaven.
And so begins Chapter 4, Operation Kino. The chapter begins in England, where we see a Lieutenant Archie Hecox, played by Michael Fassbender, meeting with British General Ed Finnick, played by Mike Myers.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
As well as in the background, and blink you'll miss him, Winston Churchill, played by screen legend Rod Taylor, in a role that he came out of retirement for and what would be his final jump into acting before his death. It's a great scene that sets up what will be the climax of the film, and Mike Myers gives a funny but damn good convincing performance as a British general.
Drink? If you offered me a scotch and plain water, I could drink a scotch and plain water. Make it yourself like a good chap, will you?
This was Mike Myers' first role in a major film after the unbelievable failure of The Love Guru, and while it's just one scene, this couldn't have come to him at a better time.
What should we drink to, sir? Down with Hitler. All the way down, sir.
We get many great one-liners, another wonderful film buff conversation, where they talk about Goebbels seeing himself as the David O. Selznick of Nazi Germany.
Brief him.
As the title of the chapter, Operation Kino is to have Hecox meet up with the Bastards in Nazi-occupied France, to which they'll all meet up with a spy, German actress Bridget von Hammersmark, played by Diane Kruger, who will then get them into the premiere of Nation's Pride so they can take out all of Hitler's main men.
We have all our rotten eggs in one basket. The objective of Operation Kino? Blow up the basket.
After rendezvousing with the Bastards, Hecox has to listen to Aldo voice his displeasure about the meeting place Hammersmark has set up.
You didn't say the goddamn rendezvous in a fucking basement. You said it was in a tavern.
It is a tavern.
Yeah, in a basement.
Where we get a fun little reference to Brad Pitt's earlier film, Fight Club.
Fighting in a basement offers a lot of difficulties. Number one being, you're fighting in a basement.
We go down to the tavern where we see Hammersmark, a role that was originally offered to Natascha Kinski, drinking and playing games with German officers on break.
Hat Karl May mitgeschrieben.
Häuptling der Apache.
Keine Sorge, meine Hübsche, wenn einer von diesen Wölfen hier aus der Reihe tanzt.
I remember watching this film many years ago with my two best friends in high school, and we all remember thinking the same thing. It's odd and kind of interesting to see Nazis portrayed in a way that's human.
Wir trinken auf unseren Freund Wilhelm und seinen kleinen Sohn Maximilian.
After Hecox, Stiglitz, and Wiki, the English-speaking German member of the Bastards, arrive, they sit down with Hammersmark. She tells them about the change of the premiere, and just as she's about to drop the big news, one of the German soldiers drunkenly comes over, asking for an autograph for his newborn son. The group then gets the attention of Major Hellstrom, just lounging in the back, drinking beer. He joins the group. They have many intense moments where Hecox has to give a good cover story of where he's from. Stiglitz barely contains his rage. Hellstrom proposes that they all play the game that the drunken soldiers are playing. They put a card with a person, fictional or otherwise, on their head. They have to guess questions. The others tell them yes or no, and then they try to accurately guess who they are.
Könnte man mein Geburtsland als exotisch beschreiben?
Ja.
After asking questions and getting fair answers, Hellstrom summarizes that he's from a foreign land, the jungle. He was brought to America against his will in chains and put on display in chains. And what's his guess?
Bin ich die Geschichte des Negers in Amerika?
Nein.
Also dann muss ich King Kong sein.
You gotta give him credit with all the hints he was given. That was actually a pretty decent guess. And this part has two interesting facts to go with it. King Kong was actually one of Adolf Hitler's favorite films, and the very close similarities to the slave trade is actually how Tarantino sees King Kong as an allegory for slavery.
That's interesting.
Hoping to move along and get to the information that Hammersmark is dying to tell them, the group agrees to one last drink with Hellstrom, to which Hecox orders 3 glasses. After downing their drinks, Hellstrom cocks his gun and announces he's pointing it right at Hecox's chandeliers.
Sie sind so deutsch wie dieser Scotch.
Hecox reveals that he's also pointing a gun at Hellstrom's balls, to which Stiglitz jumps in and says,
Und auf die Entfernung bin ich ein richtiger Frederik Zoller.
This is honestly probably the best Mexican standoff Tarantino has ever made.
Well, if this is it, old boy, I hope you don't mind if I go out speaking to kings.
By all means, Captain.
Seeing no way out, Hecox gives the order to shoot, and while his role was brief, Michael Fassbender ruled the films in his few scenes.
There's a special rung in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch, seeing as I may be rapping on the door momentarily.
The shootout we get is a spectacular piece of action. It's very quick, but so much is going on and so many people die, it's just an incredible visual. The only people not killed are Bridget von Hammersmark and the German soldier who just had his kid, Wilhelm.
We're American. What are you?
I'm a German, you idiot!
Speak English pretty good for a German.
Aldo and Hammersmark are able to convince Wilhelm to give up, saying they'll let him live, and watching it, you're not sure if you can believe Aldo, but he almost seems genuine, and Wilhelm does create a very sympathetic portrayal of himself, but just as it seems they've made the deal, well, it's not a complete shock, because he's seen them. Wilhelm's death is still surprising the first time you watch it. Especially because Hammersmark, I guess showing she really is a good actress, played to his humanity so well. All these unfortunate deaths show not everybody makes it out of a war. After interrogating Hammersmark quite viciously for the film's protagonist, the suspicious bastards are appeased after she reveals the reason that they were made. When Cox ordered the 3 classes, he held up his hand like this. Index, middle, ring finger, as opposed to the German hand signal for 3. Bleeding, but not down completely, Hammersmark reveals that the second piece of info she was trying to tell the now dead members of the Bastards is...
Der Führer is attending the premiere.
Eli Roth's reaction is fucking hilarious.
Fuck a duck!
With their German-speaking members dead, Aldo, Donnie, and Omar, played by Omar Doom, I can't tell if that's an awesome or stupid name, decide to go undercover as Italian escorts with Hammersmark to the premiere.
I don't speak Italian. Just keep your fucking mouth shut.
Why don't you start practicing right now?
Meanwhile at the bar, Landa finds the dead bastards and at first seems confused as to what the situation could have been that led to everyone dying. But then he discovers...
Mir scheint, da fehlt jemand.
And...
Bridget von Hammersmark.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
And finally, we reach the last chapter. Chapter 5. Revenge of the Giant Face. We open with a great montage of Shoshana and Marcel preparing for the premiere, making their own little film to splice into Nation's Pride, forcing a developer to help them get the film ready, getting made up. All the while, the theme song to the 1982 film Cat People by David Bowie plays.
See these tears so blue, just be still with me.
The cinema is flooding with Nazi officers and Nazi party members. Landa sees and approaches Hammersmark, Aldo, Donnie, and Omar. When asking about the cast on her leg, she gives a prepared excuse that she broke it while mountain climbing, stereotypically German. This results in Landa giving a very obnoxious but also hilarious laugh. Aldo greets Landa in Italian, and just to make it even more funny, he speaks his Italian with his still very obvious southern accent.
Buongiorno.
And after being told that Germans don't have a good ear for Italian,
Gli amici della vedetta ammirata da tutti noi, questa gemma propria della nostra cultura, saranno naturalmente accolti sotto la mia protezione per la durata del loro soggiorno.
Christoph Waltz is actually fluent in German, English, and French. The only language in this film he's not fluent in is Italian, but he does such a good job mimicking it, you'd swear he was.
Bravo. Bravo.
While Donnie and Omar make their way to their seats, Landa takes Hammersmark to a room in the back. After sitting down, he tells her to put her foot in his lap.
Hans, Sie bringen mich in Verlegenheit.
Intense interrogation or regular Tarantino audition session? You decide. He reveals the shoe of hers that she lost in the night of the bar shootout.
What's that American expression? If the shoe fits, you must wear it.
Laughing nervously, she asks what happens next, to which Landa, in what is the most savage moment the character has in the whole film, strangles her to death. Fun fact, the hands around Diane Kruger's neck are actually Quentin Tarantino's. He felt only he could make it look realistic without going too far or too less with the strangulation. Well, it worked, and Diane Kruger gave the all go ahead, so...
No worries.
Landa immediately has Aldo and fellow Bastards member Yudovich, aka the Little Man, played by BJ Novak, captured. Brings them to a remote location where he reveals, quite surprisingly, he's willing to let them carry out their mission and successfully end the war, but not before making sure that things work out in his favor, such as a full pardon, safe passage out of Germany, and many other monetary perks.
I would like the United States of America to purchase property for me on Nantucket Island as a reward for all the countless lives I've saved.
Really showing that Landa could really give a damn about his country. He's all in it for himself.
Where's Bridget von Hammersmark?
Let's just say she got what she deserved.
Can you say hypocrite? When questioned about his nickname, the Jew Hunter, Landa sneers, brushes it off, and says, just a name that's stuck. A very different tune from what we heard in the beginning of the film.
I, on the other hand, love my unofficial title. Just a name that stuck.
And of course, we get the scene that has spawned a million jokes and memes.
Ooh, that's a bingo! Is that the way you say it? That's a bingo.
Landa finalizes the deal by contacting Aldo's OSS commander, revealing that he put dynamite right under Goebbels' chair in the cinema. Aldo speaks with the OSS commander, verifying the deal has been made, and if you think that voice sounds familiar...
Colonel Landa will put you and Private Yudovich in a truck as prisoners. Upon crossing our lines, Colonel Landa and his man will surrender to you. You will then take over driving of the truck.
That's because it's Harvey Keitel. We see Hitler watching, enjoying, and cackling as Nation's Pride plays. The footage for Nation's Pride was actually directed by Eli Roth himself, and in this little short, we get cameos from Bo Svenson, the star of the original Inglourious Basterds. We also get a humble cameo from Enzo G. Castellari, director of the original Inglourious Basterds, as a Nazi general attending the premiere. As Donnie and Omar get ready to attack, Shoshona and Marcel share a big, passionate kiss, and god damn, that is one beautiful kiss. Frederick Zoller leaves the premiere. He goes up to the projection room where he tries to get a little rapey with Shoshona.
Maintenant, allez-vous-en. Frédéric, vous m'avez fait mal.
Ça fait plaisir de voir que vous pouvez ressentir quelque chose.
With a look that says, I don't have time for this shit. She quickly shoots him once he has his back turned, and in a moment that shows that she still has a little bit of a soft side, she looks at the dying private with pity, which proves to be her fatal mistake. The music, the editing, Mélanie Laurent's amazing performance just make this double death scene so heartbreaking. It's at this point that the little film Shoshona and Marcel filmed kicks in.
Send a message to Germany!
I have a message for Germany, that you are all going to die. And I want you to look deep into the face of the Jew who is going to do it.
With the cue from the film, Marcel, who I feel so sorry for. He doesn't know she's dead yet, but I just feel so sorry for him. Throws his cigarette into the nitrate film and the screen goes up in flames, creating one of the most horrifying but incredible visuals of revenge you will ever see.
And this is the face of Jewish vengeance.
Originally, this monologue was supposed to be in French, but Mélanie Laurent convinced Tarantino it'd be more powerful if she said it in English. And maybe it's just because I'm an American-born, English-speaking half-a-fag, but I agree. And it's at this moment that Donnie and Omar break into the booth and wipe out everybody, including Adolf Hitler himself. The first time you see this movie, this whole sequence just takes you by complete shock and just knocks the wind out of you. Yes, the movie was advertised as being about the bastards going in to kill Hitler, but you watch this film all the way through, at least on the first viewing, and some part of you is convinced that Hitler is gonna make it out somehow. The film is gonna play out how history actually did, but this ain't Valkyrie. This is Tarantino doing whatever he wants, and we get the true and satisfying death that Adolf Hitler deserved. At least more brutal than quickly shooting himself in a bunker. The look of absolute rage and hate on Eli Roth's face as he shoots up Hitler is wonderfully terrifying. Anyone else feel bad for that poor fuck who was just riding his bike?
No, sir.
Donnie and Omar may have died, but what a way to go.
Agreed.
There's actually so much fire going on during that scene that Eli Roth and Omar Doom sustained some minor burns.
Now that's a bitch!
With all the action now over, Landa and his radio operator, who I guess he must have liked if he was willing to include him in the escape, arrive at the American lines and officially surrender to Aldo and Yudovich, handing over their weapons.
I'm officially surrendering myself over to you. We're your prisoners.
Are you an idiot? Scalp Herman.
Aldo almost immediately shoots the radio operator, his only on-screen kill of the film, surprisingly. Landa is horrified, screaming he made a deal for his life.
But they don't give a fuck about him. They need you.
Landa screams he'll be shot. Aldo rubs it off, saying,
"More like chewed out. I've been chewed out before."
Landa, for the first time, not having any idea how the outcome of this situation will go, looks positively terrified. Aldo says for helping them end the war, take out Hitler. He does feel the deal was fair, but Landa still has committed so many atrocities that he deserves some kind of punishment. So, calling back to what was done earlier, says he's gonna give him something, unlike his uniform, that he can't take off. Christoph Waltz's screams during this final swastika carving are just blood-curdling. And looking down at the now sniveling Colonel Landa, Aldo, giving a pretty sick smile, says,
"I think this just might be my masterpiece."
And that's where it ends. Based on everything that's been said and what we know, Landa got off scot-free from all of his crimes. He got all the perks, but he now has a big-ass swastika on his forehead forever. If I was an advisor for this evil but slick detective, I'd say, you should think about investing in some big-ass hats.
Clever.
As I said earlier, this is one of Tarantino's most impressive, if underrated, contributions to cinema, and it's been a few years since I'd seen it, and rewatching it again brought back just what a wonderful alternate history fantasy it is. I read that some people criticized this film, saying they thought it was on level of, say, a Holocaust denial movie, to which I'm like, bitch, please. This movie fully acknowledges the Holocaust, and it's not labeling itself as a history film. It's giving an alternate, almost fan fiction outcome that I think just about anybody would have preferred actually happened to Adolf Hitler. And because I'm all about being fair, are there any cons I have with the film? Only two, and they don't in any way affect the overall enjoyment. The first being, Aldo Raine, while a pretty kick-ass and vicious leader of a group taking out Nazis, is the least interesting of all the lead characters in the film. He just doesn't reach the level of complexity that Hans Landa does, and he's not as sympathetic as Shoshona, and he has a very arrogant and cocky attitude, which can get a little grating depending on the scene, and while he is killing Nazis and you fully support the viciousness of the attacks, there's a very sadistic side to Aldo that makes me think, if this guy wasn't hunting Nazis, he'd probably be a serial killer. Number 2, a part of me wishes the Bastards had learned of Shoshona's part in the death of the Nazis and maybe interacted with her, but that would probably affect her heartbreaking death scene. Simply put, a part of me wishes that each group had learned of the other's actions at one point. In a funny way, Brad Pitt's main character, who I find to be the least interesting, could be seen as a parallel to Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And these two stories that are very separate but are connected by the Nazis and particularly Hans Landa reminds me of Once Upon a Time in the West. Mélanie Laurent is outstanding as Shoshona. She's tough, cold, but sympathetic, and very determined. The actress said that being Jewish, it was her dream to kill Hitler since she was 4, and after talking with her grandfather, he said, "You have to make this film."
You're a smart motherfucker, that's right.
Christoph Waltz completely stole the film, and he rightfully earned the Best Supporting Actor Oscar of 2010.
It's fucking good, sir. It's fucking Christoph.
Returning as Tarantino's main director of photography, Robert Richardson's cinematography is on point. The most impressive scene being one very similar to a very complex above-ceiling shot he did in Kill Bill Volume 1. Sally Menke, Tarantino's longtime and beloved editor, returned, and sadly this would be the final film of his that she would edit before her untimely death in 2010. What can you say about her other than her work was perfect and she and Tarantino went together like peanut butter and jelly? In a fun behind the scenes fact, Tarantino had all the actors, whenever they messed up a line, say to the camera, "Hello, Sally."
I think Sally's went there. Hi, Sally.
Bonjour, Sally. Hello, Sally.
The bastards will be waiting from you. Fuck. So close. Hello, Sally.
I just think it's adorable. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give Inglourious Basterds a 9.8. If you've seen it, definitely watch it again. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry for spoiling the film, but it's still worth an amazing watch.
Bingo! How fun!
Thank you for joining me as I once again show my undying love for my all-time favorite director, who I am very honored to share the same birthday as. I will see you again soon.
Got you flinching.